Welcome back to our True Crime podcast. Today we're going to be discussing one of the most devastating school shootings in American history, the Columbine High School Massacre. On April 20th, 1999, two students, Eric Harris and David Klebold, entered Columbine High School in Colorado and killed 13 people before taking their own lives. Decades later, the event still impacts how schools, students, law enforcement, and media are today. One thing that stood out in the book Columbine by Jeff Cass was how normal Eric and Dylan seemed from the outside. Dylan's parents described him as a healthy, happy child, and even neighbors and the Harris family as normal. That makes the case even more disturbing because nobody expected something this extreme to happen. Another major topic connected to the Columbine is bullying. The book talks about Eric and Dylan being bullied during their time at school. While bullying alone does not explain why they did what they did, many people still debate how much it affected their anger and isolation. This connects to another controversial topic, violent video games. Eric and Dylan spent a lot of time playing violent video games, and after this shooting, many people blamed those games for influencing them. But others argue millions of kids play those same games every day without becoming violent. So the question becomes, are the games really the issue? Do they have some cause, or is there a deeper mental health and social issue involved in why they committed what they did? One of the most intense parts of the book is the descriptions of what those students experienced during the attack. Jeff Cass, the author, explains how students hid under tables, ran through the halls, and escaped through the windows. They tried to protect one another. Some students and teachers risked their lives helping others escape. Those actions showed bravery during the complete chaos. So the dialogue between the shooters and the victims is also chilling. The book goes through some of that, but I just find it really, interesting how something like that could happen during an event like that, because you see a lot of it in movies and shows, and the dialogue is a little scattered, but them having the actual dialogue of what was said during the actual event is very shocking. So in the middle of all the violence, there were moments where the victims were forced into terrifying conversations while trying to survive. Reading those moments make the event seem more real and personal instead of just another news story. Another thing we found out interesting was that law enforcement took a long time to respond. So according to the book, the SWAT did not enter the school for a couple hours after the shooting even started. So today, police training for school shootings is completely different because of Columbine. Modern active shooter training focuses on officers entering immediately instead of waiting outside. Therefore, they can, take care of the situation instead of more casualties taking place. So Columbine really changed how schools and police respond to emergencies forever. So going into that, I want to get into a segment about guns in classrooms. So it was kind of a topic of debate over the last couple of years of whether or not teachers should have weapons within the classrooms or in the school for emergencies like a school shooting. So I'm going to be interviewing another student on their opinion on if their teacher had a gun in the classroom. For this next segment, I'm going to be discussing if guns should be carried by teachers in classrooms. I am here with a student named Nora Bradall. Nora, would you feel more safe or less safe knowing your teacher had a gun in a safe by their desk?
Probably more safe if they knew how to wield the gun. But if they didn't, then that's not great. But also, I feel like instead of having one in every room, I feel like there should just be like AED, AEDs they have around the school.
Yeah, Mr. Rue taught me how to use an AED.
Yes, same. I think they should have guns there, and then
they should have guns on the wall, is what you're saying.
In a safe.
In a safe on the wall. Does it have to be on the wall, or can it be in a classroom by the teacher, where a kid won't break it and steal the gun?
Specific teachers. And nobody knows which teachers have them.
So should Matthiason be allowed to carry a gun?
I think Miss Kenny should have the gun.
Miss Kenny. I see. And with that sense as well, if worst case scenario happened, a school shooting did break out and a teacher had to use that gun, do you think it would add more trauma to the students seeing Miss Kenny run out with a gun and shoot the shooter?
No, I think that would be better than watching the shooter kill one of their classmates right next to them.
So you think Miss Kenny would be praised?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Bradall. I look forward to putting that into the podcast. Moving on to the next segment. All right, I'd like to thank Ms. Bradall for participating in that, and I'm going to be moving on. So next, I'm going to get to the media coverage on how that played a huge role. So news stations reported nonstop during and after the shooting, but some really early information turned out to be false or exaggerated. The media focused heavily on things like the trench coats, music, and video games, kind of putting that above anything else. So that's kind of where a lot of fear started because of how it was reported. So it distracted from like the real cause and warning signs. People were just pointing fingers because they know someone, who dresses a certain way, acts a certain way, has a certain style. But there are more like warning signs beyond that are, you can pick up on rather than just pointing fingers because of how someone acts, dresses, or presents themselves as. So some people believe the shooters were almost infamous celebrities because of how much attention they received just from that coverage alone. So after the shooting, the community came together through memorials, vigils, and support for the victims' families. Even though the tragedy caused enormous pain, it also showed how communities unite during the grief of an event like that, an unfortunate event. Survivors had to figure out how to continue life after experiencing that trauma of being in the school, of being injured, etc. So many survivors still speak publicly to this day about their mental health, recovery, their experience, and advocate for more safety against school shootings, in schools. So an interesting question to think about is, what would have happened if Eric and Dylan had surrendered instead of killing themselves? I know that has happened in a few cases in some real school shootings where they get to the shooter before they're able to kill themselves, or the school shooter does surrender. But would we understand Eric and Dylan's motives better if they had done that? Would they have shown regret? Would they have been put to death, tried as an adult? We don't know for sure, obviously, because they did not make it out alive. Or would have had it, or at the same time, there's the thought that it could have created more pain for the victims' families, knowing that those people would still be alive. Finally, I'd like to get to the fact that Columbine continues to affect schools across America. School lockdown drills, security cameras, locked entrances, and active shooter training all became more common because of Columbine. It also makes students today ask an important question. If something like this were to happen at our school, would we know what to do? Columbine really wasn't just your regular old school shooting that we hear about on the news from time to time. It was really a turning point in America and American school culture, safety culture, all of that. So it really changed the way schools operate, how the police respond, what schools can do better or differently in an event like that, and the way society talks about violence, mental health, and safety. So thank you for listening to this episode. Stay safe, and we will see you next time.